And then he goes on in the fourth one and the last one. He says, hey, I want you to know that I don't want you to settle. Don't settle for Jesus plus deprivation, Jesus plus tradition, Jesus plus the sensational and the spectacular. He says, I want you to also not settle for Jesus plus behaviors. This is awesome. I love this one right here. And this happens a whole lot in Christianity. He goes on and he says this, since then you have died to the elemental spiritual forces of this world. You've died with Christ. He says, hey, your identity is death to those things because you are now raised with Christ. He says, why then are you subjecting yourself back to those elemental forces as if you still belong to the world? He goes, why would you do that? Why would you go back to those things that you used to be? And he's talking about behaviors, and he says specific behaviors. Do not handle, do not touch, or do not taste, do not touch. He says, why would you go back to that place? And so he's talking about something that crops up a lot in Christian circles, a whole lot in conservative Christian circles, and it's this. It's legalism. And legalism says this, grace and by grace through faith in Jesus Christ is not enough. You got to add Christ plus certain behaviors. And legalists are people who have certain do's and certain don'ts. And they've got lists of things that if you're a good Christian, you won't do this or you won't do that or you won't go to this place or you won't be there. And so what happens is as you interact with them, they kind of throw these expectations on you. Their personal convictions, their personal experience becomes something that they expect you to do. And if you don't do that, they're going to reject you. They're going to cut you off. They're going to put you out of the club, so to speak. And you got to be very careful about that because the alternative is a lifestyle of grace. And you know what legalists need to understand? If God's big enough and if God's in control, then I don't have to be. And if God can lead people and if His Holy Spirit can convict people and lead people and teach people, then I don't have to give a bunch of do's and don'ts and a bunch of rules and regulations and that kind of thing. People are amazed when they come into Intersect Church. They're like, well, what are the do's and don'ts of the church? Like, what can we do? What can't we do? And I'm like, you know what? I am so not into rules. I am so not into all the do's and don'ts and putting things in a box because you know what? God doesn't. That you can do rules and regulations or you can do relationship. And God's all about relationship. And so let me tell you something about legalists. They will say things like this. They will say that, you know, you can err on one side or the other, that it's bad to have a lot of money. And if you have a lot of money, that's horrible. And if you're a true follower of Christ, you'll give all your money away and live in poverty and live a very poor life. And you will just live a meager existence because that's the way Jesus did it.